Housing prices plunge and people are saving money. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because, well, I found another article discussing house prices plunging, and I thought we should have a look at it because, well, there's going to be a lot of these running around for a while because, frankly, houses shot up insane levels. You can see here, and well, if you live in, this is from SQM, if you live in Brisbane, it gets even stupider, guys. Look at that. So you've got to remember, if we're coming off a peak, if it's stupidly high, it's still going to be stupidly high. Maybe I'm just getting old and have memories of houses that were, only $500,000. So prospective home buyers could pay $53,000 less for properties after house prices tumbled in one of the fastest declines ever, one of the fastest ever declines. Yes, but the FOMO and the price increase was one of the fastest we've had forever as well. So it's like a stock when it rockets up, it'll often come back down. The latest Domain report shows house prices in the Australian capitals fell 4.9% in the last quarter from the peak in March. It was the fastest quarterly fall on record. The median house price, and this is median, you've got to remember that's 50%, or 50% of housing above that figure, and 50% below that figure. That's smack bang in the middle. So the median house price is sitting at just about $1 million. So $1,022,000. That's it. Half of Australian houses are more expensive than that, and half are cheaper than that. Now, do you think $1 million is a reasonable price for a house? Depending on the location, sure it is. But when I grew up, $1 million was big money. Nowadays, how many people have houses that are worth that? Average people do. Welcome to Australia, guys. I'm sure that that cost of living savings you're going to get by, your pills being $10 cheaper is really going to help you afford housing here in Australia. So it's down by 53,000 from the June quarter, but still 21.3% higher than the pandemic's low of 999,000. We're still 21.3% up. Apart from Adelaide, house prices in every capital dropped, with the Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra markets seeing the speediest downturn ever recorded. We're going through housing market conditions that many buyers and sellers have never experienced in their lifetime, Domain's chief economic researcher, Nicola Powell, said. Well, yes. Well, most people have never been in a recession in Australia. Most working people. The last recession before this one that we had was the Keating-Hawke recession. Remember that? The recession that Australia had to have. I was a kid then. I remember that because that was when construction work got real quiet in Victoria and we moved up to Queensland. Adelaide bucked the overall trend, with house and unit values hitting record highs, but the South Australian market has started to lose steam. Obviously, buyers have reduced their borrowing capacity. Well, no, buyers haven't reduced. Banks have reduced the borrowing ability of buyers. But they are also more mindful of mortgage affordability, and many are now pricing in further interest rate hikes. Yeah, that people are being sensible for the first time. I mean, most of us who bought years ago, do we deserve this increase in property prices? Be quite honest. I mean, how much has your property gone up since you bought it? Even if you're still paying it off. It's insane. It really is. If you don't, what have you done? Paint it a bit? Maybe mow it, or maybe do a bit of gardening? Yeah, that's worth the 50 to 100% increase some people have. It's bullshit, guys, okay? We all know it. We all know it, but that's the problem. That's the problem here in Australia. You can be working, running a business, and then, all the stress that you've got to deal with that, and you're looking at your house and it's making more money, doing nothing. Buyers have shifted away with houses, with units outperforming larger dwellings across most capital cities. Well, units took a bigger hit. In Brisbane and Perth, unit prices grew while house values dropped. And Perth and Darwin were the only capital cities where house prices held stronger than units. Affordability issues are going to help steer away demand from houses and towards units. We're already seeing that, Dr. Powell said. Has the concern with construction quality evaporated yet? We haven't had an apartment evacuated for a while, have we? Though the cost of units has also slipped in most cities, compared to the housing market, the declines were more stable, down a modest 3.9%, or 24,000 from December 2021. The problem with units is you've got all the costs associated with the units, and you're buying into some little bloody socialist or fascistic body corporate entity where you all have to argue with a bunch of other people. Maybe I'm just not the demo suited to that. I've worked with projects with body corporates, and it's the politics, guys. The bitching. Oh, boy. I'm still getting flashbacks. Domain reports house value declines could either ease or rebound entirely as the Reserve Bank seeks to ease interest rate hikes and consumer sentiment recovers. As overseas migration resumes and short-term visa holders return, Dr. Powell also expects to see an uptick in housing investment, which he says will ease the rental crisis despite the latest inflation data. Well, you've got to remember as well, they've increased the permanent migration visas. We're now getting 200,000 people will be coming to Australia. That'll put more demand on housing supply. And remember, we've got another video I'll put out later today about another builder going bust. We've had the construction apocalypse, so ability to manufacture supply has also been damaged. So what does that all mean? It all adds more support to the market. The ABS revealed inflation soared to 7.3% in September quarter, the highest since 1990. Wow, that's retro. Wow. I think that's when we moved up, around then, when it started getting tough, or maybe a couple of years after. Dr. Powell said the housing market should remain relatively unscathed. In terms of inflation data, change on the previous quarter over September is the same as we saw in June. So on an annual basis, it's still very high, but we're actually seeing auction clearance rates improve from the lows over the winter months. House prices may be falling, but competition in the rental market remains fierce. Yes, we still have a rental crisis. Let's have a look here at some of the SQM. Let's look at Brisbane rental prices. Oh, no, wait. We'll go Sydney, because then that'll load. There you go, guys. Look at that. Look at that growth. Look at apartments. Everything's shooting up. Good old Melbourne. Remember when the apartments were all crashing because of COVID? See, apartment rental costs? They're all shooting up again. It's all bouncing back. So, how many people would have just held on through that period? Sensible people would have for an investment if it's long term. It's only the people who probably leveraged too far, stretched themselves too much, that they copped it. A separate report shows rental availability falling sharply, with the number of rental properties listed on realestate.com.au plummeting 20.5% in the year to September. Now, you've got to understand rents, the yields you can get on your property, that will add to the demand, the value you can buy them for. Low rental availability is pushing rents higher as landlords can afford to hike rents when tenants have limited choice. Rents surged 4.3% in the 3 months to September, the fastest quarterly rate on record. PropTrack Director of Economic Research Cameron Kusher said investor activity was more subdued than normal. With fewer investors purchasing homes to rent out, the limited supply of stock coupled with strong demand is leading to heightened increases in advertised rent prices. Mr. Kusher said, some heat was coming out of the regional rental market, but big cities were becoming more competitive. This is being driven by the return of many people who migrated regionally during the pandemic back to capital cities and the lift in overseas migration. So that green change that everyone did is coming to an end. We've been hearing little rumors and things about that in the past few years. It wasn't what everyone expected. Well, let's have a bit of a talk about this, guys. So, property coming off its peak, but it's a peak. It's artificially high. It was juiced up by the market. You've got to remember, the Reserve Bank cut rates to insanely low levels. And the government, the previous government, juiced up the housing market with Home Builder. And of course, now we're seeing builders going bust left, right, and centre. Now we've got the Housing Accord put out by the new Labour government. My concern is that that's going to bring more institutional ownership of housing stock here in Australia rather than individual ownership. I guess that's probably more an ideological difference. I would prefer individuals owning houses, families owning houses, building that wealth, passing it from father to child or family down the generations, than large corporations owning it. I guess that's just my upbringing probably. What do you reckon, guys? So do you think people will save money on housing, or is it all just smoke and mirrors? And rents are just going to keep getting worse. As always, thank you for watching. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other topics and content I discuss. And if you're a fan and want to support the channel, there's a few ways you can. Financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. I think my Steely's arrived. I got to go check on him.